These sound bites are brought to you by 365daysofnutrition.com. Chatting to the knowledgeable and very lovely Victoria Mann today. She is a dietitian from Maggie's Cancer Care Centre in Oxford, where she's doing a fantastic job. She's working on 365 days of nutrition with us in collaboration with various nutritionists and dietitians. We took the opportunity to look at how to keep ourselves well during these times, these COVID-19 times. I'm quite organised with my food and shopping, but learning from Victoria to plan each meal before we start our day definitely can stop dips in our moods and energy levels, and just keeps you on track generally to operate at the best level that you can. I'm not quite sure why I sound like I've got a pillow over my face, but Victoria does sound great and does a great job, and that really is all that matters. Welcome, Victoria Mann. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to having a good chat to you. And we're having a chat, of course, in the middle of such interesting times with COVID-19 around us. And so I just wonder how you're coping with that, Victoria.
Yeah, certainly strange times, isn't it? It's been a big adjustment in terms of my work and my day-to-day. So we're about 3.5 weeks in now, I think, aren't we? So starting to get to some sort of new normal and just, taking each day as it comes.
Yes, crazy times for all, really. We're all in uncharted territory. And I think my first question that I'm interested to ask you will serve us all for this particular instance, but also going forward. And I just wanted to find out how you would suggest we look out for ourselves and keep our immune systems in optimum shape, not only for COVID-19, but, for life in general, really.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot at the moment on social media and in the media in general about boosting your immune system and what we can do to help boost our immune system and keep us safe from COVID-19 and also keep us healthy in general. There's quite a bit of misinformation out there about immune system. So firstly, the sort of whole concept of boosting your immune system. Actually, what we want is just our immune system to be functioning optimally. And the immune system works in a very fine balance. So we don't want an underactive immune system, but we also don't want an overactive immune system because that has sort of complications that come alongside it. So what we want to be doing is making sure that our immune system is working as well as it should be. There's lots of different things that affect our immune system. And as the name would suggest, it's a system rather than a single entity. So really it's about our whole body balance. So lots of things come into that, including our diet, but also stress management. So, these, as you say, are difficult times for a lot of people, and stress levels can start to peak. So it's important that we're managing our stress because that has an important role to play in our immune system. Getting adequate sleep. So a lot of us, our routines are a bit out of sync. And we're not necessarily doing the things that we'd normally do during the day. So making sure we've got some structure and getting a good amount of sleep. Trying to take some physical activity where we can. So keeping active is a really important part of our immune system. And then, of course, diet. So there's lots of different dietary factors that have a role to play in our immune system functioning well. So really, overall, the key message in terms of diet is try and keep some variety in your diet. So sometimes when we're stressed or run down or out of our normal routine, our dietary habits can change and we can find that the variety narrows down, particularly at the moment that food shopping is a new experience for a lot of us.
Well, it's a challenge for anybody.
Yeah. So whether you're doing a food shop online and what you expect to come doesn't arrive, or whether you're getting yourself to the supermarket or
and finding empty shelves to contend with.
Yeah, so at the moment that's bringing new challenges alongside this, but really what we want is a good variety of different foods in our diet. So we often talk about eating a rainbow, so making sure there's lots of different colours in our diet, so we're not sticking to just brown foods, which can sometimes happen.
Eating a rainbow was a game changer for me. I run this for people to lift their immune systems up and their lives in general, really, and to gain more energy. So when I was introduced to eating a rainbow, I really grabbed hold of that. It took my imagination. But the other thing was I had to eat them in order. So
okay.
I had to start off with a red food just to get myself going. But now I've got the hang of it. But I used to have such a lot of fun with that.
It's interesting to think that when you look back over your day and you think, what colours have I eaten? It's a really interesting concept, and sometimes you can find that you always have a tendency to go for, I don't know, green vegetables. So you have your broccoli or your peas or green beans, and you don't you
can often leave the red ones out, for example.
Definitely.
So, I always had to make sure Richard of York was eaten first, and then I could carry on with the rest of the day.
Brilliant. Exactly. It's finding ways that you can sort of get it into your mind and think about it throughout your day. And equally, when we're food shopping as well, we tend to go for the same things over and over again. And it's important to make sure that we're getting that wide variety in. And what that means.
I've enjoyed that, you see, with the supermarkets, because you turn up for your usual things. You definitely do get stuck into routine and a habit. And it wasn't there on the shelf, so you've had to adapt and find new things. And I've actually really loved that.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of ready, steady, cook, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And that you're getting there, and you've got these 10 ingredients that you didn't expect to have.
Before I was isolated and told to lock down for 3 months, I'd go down there with my daughter, and for whatever meals we planned for the next few days, half the ingredients were missing. I think we went for 10 days and we never once got the full range of ingredients we were going to have. But we did end up with some really great meals because you just adapted, and I love doing that. I'm a master of adapting to. It was quite fun, but I know, to be fair, that's not been the same for everybody. A lot of people find that quite stressful.
Yeah, I think it's sort of trying to open your mind, isn't it, to different possibilities. So it can be quite stressful when you've got something in mind and you think that's the ingredients I need, that's what we're going to have for dinner, and you can't get that. And it's just trying to be a little bit more flexible in your thinking and, treat it as a bit of a experiment or a bit of a game in that, what can I create with this? And, we've all had disasters in the kitchens, but sometimes actually it becomes your new favourite dish. You might discover your new favourite dish or the new family favourite. So it's having a bit more flexibility and as you say, choosing things that you might not ordinarily have picked up in the supermarket.
Yeah.
And getting that variety in that's what makes sure that we're getting that whole range of vitamins and minerals. So that's why the different colours are so important, because the different colours have different levels of vitamins and minerals in. And if we're sticking to one, it might be that we miss out on certain micronutrients that are really important for keeping our immune system functioning well.
Yeah, no, well, I find that really fascinating. I mean, when I started off writing this, I certainly wasn't as informed as I am now. And it's fantastic to see what the variety of even just the skins on fruit or vegetables do for you, and how to incorporate that into your day. So it's been a really interesting learning curve. And I know the people that have signed up have found the same. We're all a bit more educated, which is really where we're at with our diets. And it's making it part of your lifestyle, isn't it? It's
Definitely.
Not just to, I can't stand jumping on a diet that you're going to fall and flounder on. And I think with nutrition, it's definitely not a weight loss program that I created here, but because I've not lost any weight whatsoever at the moment, I'm piling it on. But I think the truth of the matter is I'm eating so much better.
Yeah.
I'm much more aware of what I'm putting in.
it's about the quality of the nutrition, and that every mouthful's giving you that range of nutrients, and each mouthful's nutrient packed, rather than eating and just kind of filling up. It's serving much more of a purpose than just not being hungry anymore. It's fueling your body with the right nutrients to make it function as well as it possibly can do.
Well, and kind of that leads me into I'm often mindful of before prior this whole global meltdown we've been having, that we were running ourselves into the ground. And I hope it doesn't continue. I hope that we learn from it. But there will be times when we return to our new normal that we probably have really busy times. And I just wondered what helps sustain your energy levels. When you've, for example, there are mums out there running really busy families, and that's an utterly exhausting job. There's single parents like myself out there that need to be kept buoyant. Our older generation who we've protected, how do they look after themselves? What kind of things can you have to keep you lifted and give you energy?
Yeah, so energy levels are really interesting in terms of how our diet affects it. So our body obviously needs energy from our food and needs glucose to run. And what our body really likes is a nice steady supply of energy throughout the day. What it doesn't like is having lots of peaks of glucose, so peaks in energy. It then has to release lots of insulin from the pancreas to help digest that and get it into the bloodstream. And be able to use it. And what happens is quite often people are very reactive in their eating, and you get lots of these spikes in glucose and insulin, which actually the body really doesn't like. And that often drives these kind of cravings for quick releasing energy. So sugary foods, sugary drinks, processed carbohydrates that you think at the time are going to give you a bit of a boost and keep you going, but actually lead to these spikes in glucose and insulin. So what we ideally should be doing to keep our energy levels nice and stable throughout the day and keep us going is have what we call low glycemic index foods. So foods that are slowly released into the bloodstream throughout the day, keep our blood glucose levels nice and stable. And then that provides us with a steady amount of energy throughout the day, rather than these spikes where you think, oh yeah, I'm up and I'm doing it, and then crashing back down afterwards, and then reactively eating to then get those levels back up again. So these are your kind of slow released carbohydrates. So often, things like porridge oats are encouraged for breakfast, because that's a nice slow release carbohydrate. More of your whole grains, your vegetables, your seeds, your nuts, things that are going to give you a nice slow release amount throughout the day. And then obviously alongside that, something which I think we've talked about before is making sure that you're getting enough of your B vitamins in. So it's all very well having enough energy from food, but you need the B vitamins to help you be able to release that energy. So getting adequate B vitamins in your diet is really, really important to release that energy and be able to utilize it.
Well, I've kind of become a massive vitamins. I didn't really know much about them prior to being diagnosed, but as I was coming through it, I learned how to boost myself a little bit, and I don't think I was paying attention to it really before, but I've taken on board more B vitamins, and that's given me a much better steady energy throughout the day. That's got stronger as I got better and found my natural energy could kick in. And so I'm very aware of B vitamins and what they do, and certainly what they've done for me.
It's amazing the difference it can make. And I think when particularly, you mentioned parents who are, stressed and running from one place to the next, it's very easy to become quite reactive with your food. And, sometimes the last thing we think that we want is, some whole grains and some veg and some lean protein. And that's not what our mind is saying our body needs, but actually that is what our body needs. It needs something that's going to give us, that slow release carbohydrate, the B vitamins with it, and something that's going to keep us going, rather than something that's just going to solve it for the next half an hour. And then we find that we're back in that cycle.
Right. And I'm a great one for skipping lunch as well. I'll be so engrossed in a project I'm doing that I'll forget to have it, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off, and I think, what's the matter with me? I've done it so many times, and every time I don't think, oh, I know it's because you've not
Yeah.
eaten. I think, oh, what's wrong? Why can't I just concentrate, or whatever it is? And it's interesting, actually, while we've been on in isolation, I've watched the children, because they do their own lunches and I carry on doing what I'm doing. But if we all kind of go out of routine and one of them will come down and say, I just feel really tired, I'll say, well, have you had any lunch? No. There you go. It's quite interesting to look at it in somebody else and think, there we are, there's a slump.
I think that's the thing. We're all very good at recognizing in other people and giving other people advice. And sometimes we're not so good at recognizing it in ourselves. And
no, but it's interesting to see it in action.
Definitely.
Really, I found that quite amazing. I just thought, oh, there it is. I can see it for myself now, and that's what happens to me. And it's not good for you. I can see that firsthand. So yeah, I'm very watchful of things like that.
And the other thing is hydration as well. So, you know, we get caught up doing things and we're not having a drink, and, you know, the morning goes by and you realize you haven't had a drink since you had your breakfast or you had a cup of tea first thing. And actually, even really mild dehydration can have quite a significant impact on our mood and our concentration. Start to get headaches, start to become a little bit irritable. And, you know, all of those things happen at even really mild dehydration, and our body's not very good at telling us when we're thirsty. So we actually become quite dehydrated before that kind of thirst mechanism kicks in properly. So it's just making sure that I'm a really big fan of planning your day. I'm a bit of a planner myself anyway, but it's just sort of planning out, you know, these are the meals that I'm going to have today. These are the rough times. Having a bottle of water on the go so that you see it sat there in your desk in front of you and you can see that actually it hasn't gone down at all. And just keeping sort of regular food and fluid intake just keeps your body kind of ticking over nicely. If we start to kind of deprive it of fluid or food, then obviously things start to go awry quite quickly.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really good point you make, in actual fact, that if you've got an idea and a guideline of what food you're going to have for the day, you can forget about it, because all you need to do is think, right, now it's time to eat. What was I eating? Off you go and sort it out. And
exactly,
there's no thought at that. When you're mid project or mid childcare or mid on the fly or whatever it is, you don't always have the brain space to start thinking up what you're going to eat. Whereas if you've made the decision early on in the day, it's not there's no decision to be made, actually, is it? You just look at what you've decided and then go ahead and sort it out.
Exactly. And actually, often, as you say, we're eating at a point where we've already become hungry. And that then our cognitive function changes slightly and our thought processes change. And we might start to make, you know, decisions that aren't as good for our health as the decisions we would have made first thing in the morning when we were.
Yeah, I've definitely done that several times. I have. Definitely.
And you open the fridge and think, oh, actually.
Yeah, there it is. That's easy. I'll have that. And it might not be the right thing for you. There's no thought behind it, no planning, no rainbow foods, no Richard of York going on. You just diving for the nearest thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just heard you right at the very beginning here, just to kind of wrap up nicely for us, to look after ourselves while we're either busy and on the go all the time, or particularly at the moment going through coronavirus times and trying to make ourselves well. That you ran through a little list of sleep and stress and activity. I just wonder if you could just wrap up by just running through that list once more with a bit more emphasis on what we need to be taking care of ourselves on.
Yeah, definitely. So we know that physical activity is really important in our immune system, and the level of physical activity is actually really important. So we don't want to be doing really, really high intensity activity that's putting our body under a massive amount of stress, because then that can actually cause the immune system to dip a little bit. But what we don't want to be doing is not getting sort of out of puff or anything at all. So what we want to be aiming for is a moderate level of activity. So I always equate that to you could hold a conversation, but you wouldn't want to sing a song. So you're getting a little bit out of puff, a little bit hot, but you're not sort of gasping for breath. So getting some physical activity in at that moderate level. Stress management, as we said, we know that an increase in cortisol, an increase in stress has an impact on our immune system. So thinking about stress management techniques, that's obviously different for everybody, but it's there's a lot out there at the moment about sort of mindfulness, meditation, yoga, anything that kind of helps you to manage your stress levels. Getting adequate sleep. So quite a bit of research has shown that if we're getting 6 hours or less of sleep a night, our body can't reset the immune system, and the immune system can't work optimally.
Well, I always have to laugh at that one because I go to sleep, I put my head on the pillow, and within 5 minutes I've gone, and exactly 7 hours later I will wake up.
Oh, really? Brilliant.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But I always laugh because I do remember growing up listening to Margaret Thatcher telling us how she managed on 4 hours sleep a night, and you could see all these businessmen around her thinking, oh, well, that's what I've got to do as well then. But what Margaret didn't actually say, if you look at the age she was, which I think was 52, 53, she's probably going through menopause and couldn't sleep anyway. But
it wasn't by choice.
I don't think it was at all. Now when you get to understand a bit more. But I remember the shockwaves going around all these big business people, thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to manage. I'll manage on 4. I'll manage on 3.5.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting concept though, because I think people think, oh, I'll get up earlier, I'll be more productive. And actually, yes, obviously you don't want to sleep till the middle of the morning and waste half the day, but equally getting the right amount of sleep. And the right amount is different for everyone. And I think that's the thing. Some people 8 hours have to have their 8 hours, otherwise they're useless the next day. Some people 6 hours is absolutely fine. But any less than that kind of 6 hours, and the research has shown it does start to have a knock-on impact on your immune system. So it's about finding what's right for you, and obviously your body knows that 7 hours works well and that's what's right for you. And sometimes having more than that, actually you wake up
the time to find that out, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
And actually it alters, I think, through your life.
Absolutely.
I certainly know when I was younger I needed much more sleep, whereas now 7 hours, I just feel great off 7 hours, and I couldn't make myself sleep more if I wanted to. So it's quite interesting, but I think taking the time to work that out for yourself is a really valuable thing to do.
Definitely, and listening to your body. I think we're all very good at overriding the signals that our body gives us, and trying to ignore them, whereas we need to become much more in tune.
There.
Yeah,
they're always there, aren't they? If you just take the opportunity. It's just finding this stillness that we've been given at the moment, to learn a bit more about yourself and put yourself as a priority.
Definitely.
It's a great time for that if people, I think a lot of people are understanding that.
Yeah.
So a couple of other things that I know that we've spoken about in the past is obviously a balanced diet, and keeping healthy gut bacteria is a big one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So that comes again alongside the sort of making sure you're having a variety of fruits and vegetables. The fibres in the fruits and vegetables, fibres in your whole grains are really important for your gut bacteria to function optimally. And we are learning more and more every day about the gut-brain axis and the relationship between what's happening in the gut and what's happening in the rest of the body. And actually the gut is much more of a complex system than we ever thought it was. And it has a massive impact on our immune system, on our mental health, on so many different things. So it's making sure
we're learning it's the second brain, aren't we? And
absolutely,
in a way you kind of think there's no accident that we've learned to say your gut instinct.
There's so many of those little phrases that actually
make a bit more sense now as we're learning more about it.
Definitely. And that's the thing, it's just making sure that we're feeding that healthy gut bacteria so that it can thrive and it can function and do everything that it needs to do in the gut to keep us healthy. And it's not something that we've given a huge amount of thought to in the past. And we know that if we've been unwell, if we've had a period of stress, if we've had an infection, if we've been on antibiotics, all of those things can really knock our gut bacteria. And so it's important, once you're feeling better, to start to try and replenish that and get the health back in your gut.
Okay, well, I was going to start on how do you do that, but that's a whole big conversation, so maybe we can have that one another time.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I think is really difficult for people at the moment, and something that would be on your list, would be to avoid smoking and too much alcohol, and certainly at a time like this when, you know, lots of people are quite stressed, and
Yeah.
It's quite easy to fall down on your bad habits, so to speak. We've all got them in one form or another. And so, you know, I don't know how that it's just willpower and finding a distraction to keep you in a balanced way with those two things.
Yeah, I think it's finding strategies that work for you. So we know that on average cravings last about 20 minutes. And if you can distract yourself fully for those 20 minutes, theoretically, the craving should start to subside.
Right.
So if you find that you are sort of reaching for sort of an alcoholic drink on a too regular basis, then it's thinking, you know, what could I have as an alternative? Is there a low sugar fruit drink that I could have that would kind of satisfy that want for a kind of different taste? Is there something I could go and do that would distract me? So we usually recommend something that can distracts you fully. So not just, you know, watching TV, because actually we can do a lot of things whilst watching TV and our brain's not necessarily fully engaged with it. So, you know, doing something like a puzzle, or going and, if you're kind of crafty, going and doing something that, you know, you're using your hands for and kind of fully distracts you,
or full immersion of your brain.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can do that, then it can help those sort of cravings to subside. And it's about sort of thinking, it's difficult for us all to think long term at the moment with so much uncertainty, but it's about thinking long term, and, you know, how do we want to come out of this? Do we want to, you know, we don't want to knock back all of the achievements that we've made prior to lockdown, and we want to come out of this as healthy and as well as we possibly can do. So I think focusing on those goals, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's really been very helpful, Victoria, and I'm very, very grateful for you giving up your time this morning. Normally I'd be sat with you having a cup of tea, but that's not quite working out at the moment, but I'm sure we can resume that at some point.
Absolutely. We'll have our virtual tea at the moment.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going off to eat my Richard of the morning.
Brilliant.
But thanks so much for that, and
no problem.
we look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Thank you.
Lovely. Take care.
You too. If you like this soundbite from 365 days of nutrition.com, comment on it, like it, or share it.